In this video, we will try to understand what is the use of where keyword in C#. Now for some reason I have seen developers comparing this where keyword with the where keyword which exists in JavaScript or the variant of Visual Basic. But that's a very wrong thinking. So in this video, we'll try to unleash what exactly is the use of where keyword. Now when you define a simple data type in .NET like int I, it's called as explicit declaration of data type. In other words, we can say it's a direct declaration. You are actually specifying what data type you are interested in. Now this is the most common way of defining a .NET data type. Now let's try to understand what happens when we start using the where keyword. Now when you define a data type with a where keyword, you are actually defining the data type indirectly or implicitly. In other words, when you use the where keyword, the compiler looks at the data which is present on the right hand side and creates appropriate data type during the compilation process. For instance, in this scenario, the data is numeric 0, so it replaces the where keyword statically to int during the generation of the IL code. Putting in simple words, the where keyword is not something like object which can point towards any other data during the runtime. So once the data type is confirmed by looking at the data, it will only point to the valid data as per the data type. For instance, in this scenario, the where I will always point towards numeric integers values only. Now let's put the final definition for the where keyword, and then we will do some practicals to understand the fundamental in a better manner. It's an implicit way, or rather I will say an indirect way of defining data types. In simple words, by looking at the data at the right hand side, the left hand side data type is defined by the compiler during the generation of the IL code. Now let me make a very important statement here, and this is where many of our developer friends are confused a lot. Where keyword is defined statically, and this I have already said in my previous part of the video. Let me repeat. Where keyword is defined statically and not dynamically. In other words, they are not something like the object type which can be pointed once to an integer and then to a string, and on runtime the object the data type will adjust himself. It's actually statically defined. So let me prove this point by showing some practicals over here. So let's move ahead with step 1. So let's go and create a simple console application for demonstration purpose, and let's name this console application as console where, and let's press OK. Now let's go ahead and define a simple where I, and let's put some numeric values here. Now with this statement where I equal to 1 2 3, what has happened is the I has been now defined as integer, okay, as I've explained previously in my theory. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put a string into that I variable, and you can clearly see that there is a red sign over there, and if I try to build a solution, it should give me an error. So you can clearly see that it's telling me that it cannot implicitly convert this string to int. What it means is that this error he is giving me during the compile time and not during the runtime, right? And if I try to move my mouse on the I variable, you can see that it is telling me this is a local variable with the int data type. So that proves the point that the where keyword has actually statically defined the data type and not during the runtime, right? If you remove this and you try to build the solution, you will see that there are no errors, right? Now just to prove our point ahead, just to confirm if the theory what we're thinking is right or not, let's do like this. Let's try to open this console application in ILDSM. Okay, so let me go to the bin directory and let me copy this path, and let me go to my Visual Studio command prompt, and let me type ILDSM. Oh sorry, this is not the Visual Studio command prompt. Let me go start here, and let me go to Visual Studio. Let me open the command prompt. So there's my Visual Studio command prompt, and let me type ILDSM. I would be interested to know how is the IL code generated, right? So if this is statically defined, then what should happen is in the IL code I should see the int declaration, right? So let me go, just click on the open, and let me go and give a path here. Let me paste it, and let me go and open the console where, right? And let me go and browse to the main. double click on it. Let's see what kind of IL code it has generated. Now you can see very clearly that statement over that saying that this variable is a local variable and the type is int 32. So that proves our point that this definition is statically defined. In other words, it is not something which happens on the runtime, and that's why the statement what we made previously, that var types are statically defined and they are not something on runtime. The data type will change. Now the next question which comes to our mind is, what's the practical use of the var keyword? Directly defining data types are simpler and cleaner as compared to the indirect definition or implicit definitions of data types. If you see on the screen, int I1 is much better to understand and readable as compared to var I. So definitely for simple data types like int, double, etc., the var keyword will cause more confusion and will also make your code more complicated to understand. So again, we are on the same page. So what really is the use of var keyword and in what scenarios is it useful? Now let's try to understand the first important use of var, the var keyword. So let's go and create a class with some big name here. So I'm going to go and create a class here called as CLS some big class to do something. Okay, let's say that your class name is very huge. Okay, big one. Now let's go and create an object of this class, and let's say that you can see that this class is a generic type we have defined. Now let's try to create an object of it. Let's create a object of this class of type string. So we are going to attach the string type with the generic class. Okay, so obj equal to new CLS some big class to do something, and string and string. Right, now you can notice over here that the code has become quite long, unreadable. Right, now if you use the var keyword, you can see how shortened it is. It has become short and sweet and also readable. So the first important place where you really use the var keyword is when your class names are big. Now let me go and define a property here called as customer name. So you can see that not only the var keyword has shortened or made your code readable, but also the var keyword has made the obj strongly typed. So as we have previously said that wherever you define a data type with var, it is not dynamically driven, it's more statically typed. Okay, so we have gained both the ends. We have shortened the statement, and also on the other hand we are not compromising on the on the performance. Why? Because the var obj is actually statically typed or it is strongly typed. Now the second scenario where the var keyword is useful is with LINQ and anonymous types. Now in order to understand how var keyword is useful with LINQ and anonymous types, let's go and create an array of strings and let's fill this array with some static data. Now I'm sure that the previous reason of long class names is not a convincing reason to use var. I told that reason, but internally somewhere I felt that that's not really a strong reason. On a general basis you will rarely find such big class names, but this reason of var keyword with LINQ and anonymous types is the most important aspect why var is in existence. So let's type this array, and on this array we will go and fire LINQ queries, and we will then see how var is useful. So you can see, like on the screen, we have created a simple string of array which has some dummy data: Shiv, Raju, Koirala and Sham. Let's go and fire LINQ queries on this, and then we'll see that how var keyword is useful. Now on this array we will go and fire a LINQ query which will fetch us data whose length is greater than 5. So let me say object O, because I don't know what will be returned from the array, from the LINQ query, and let me type the LINQ query. So from x in the array where x dot length is greater than 5. Now in case you are new to LINQ, what I will suggest is please go and visit the LINQ question and answer video series from quest1vd.com. And what I'll do is I'll say, okay, return me back the length as well as return me back the data. Right. Now the first thing you will notice here is, okay, this will work. My query will be fired. But the left hand side, that object O, I'm not able to get a strongly typed property. Like if you see, it is returning me length and the data, right? So it would be great if I can have this O object will have a property here saying length and data, so that I can work in a much better manner. So in order to overcome that, what you'll do is you'll go and create a class, right? So let's go and create a class, and let's try to create a strongly typed object here, where we can get this property of length and data. So in order to have a better readable code, with a strongly typed object, let me go and create my own class here, and let me define two properties here. One is the length and the other one is the data. So that I can accommodate, the data which is coming from LinkU into this object, into this my data object. So the LinkU normally returns IEnumerable, so I'm going to say, okay, IEnumerable of my data, and over here I'll say that the length should go in the length property, right? And okay, let me just attach it with my data. So length should go in the length property, and the value should go in the value property, right? Okay, so now let's go and see, if this object is strongly typed or not. So let me just use the index to O of 0. Oh, it's a enumerable. I'm sorry, it's enumerable. So we can just do a for each loop here. So let me do a for each loop for each my data of O1 in O. Let's browse this. Right, and let's type here O1 dot O. That's not a curly bracket, that's a round bracket. So let me make it round. I've become old. Okay, and we say O1 dot. Now you can see over here, I can see the len as well as the value. So in other words, I have created a strongly typed object, which I can get from the LinkU query. Okay, now there's a problem here. I have done a lot of hard work. You can see that I created a class, and then that class I put in the IEnumerable, and then I'm doing I'm getting the property. Now if we use the var keyword, this can be simplified to a great extent. So let's see how the simplification happens, if we use a var keyword. The biggest advantage of using the var keyword with LinkU and anonymous type is you don't need this extra class anymore. So just delete this, you don't need this. Now you can just say var here, you don't need this. And now let me go and browse through this this object O what we have. Let's see, we also should get a strongly typed property. That means I should be able to see the length and the value property also, right? So let me say for each var x in O, and let me say x dot. Now that's a great thing. You can see that the x is a strongly typed object. You can see it's an object which has it's an anonymous type actually. This, if you see this last sentence, right, which is of LinkU, that is select new len equal to x dot length comma value equal to x, is nothing but anonymous type. In other words, you are creating a type on runtime with two properties, length and x. Okay, so in such kind of scenarios in LinkU, where we do not know what kind of columns the LinkU query can return,